Kamala drama keeps getting worse. In a new interview with MSNBC, Kamala admitted Joe Biden is no longer picking up her calls.
I want to get to some news that just came out today with President Biden. His spokesperson said that he is going to now start doing radiation for his prostate cancer. Have you talked to him about it?
I called him earlier.
How's he doing?
I have not talked to him. I just left him a message after I heard the news. I was otherwise on the event at the event. I think Joe Biden is a fighter, and that is what I told him and left him a message. He's a fighter, and he's going to fight this.
She also insisted that Americans should no longer trust the DOJ.
I don't know if we can trust what's coming out of the Department of Justice right now. When you have an administration and individuals who are manipulating the justice system of America in that way, they best understand that this is not only about something that affects the individuals that they're targeting. This affects all of us. A justice system is actually supposed to be blind in the way that it does its work, not targeting people because of who they are, or for that matter, what they look like.
Here to react is Ned Ryan, American Majority CEO, along with Kaylee McGee-White, Fox News contributor. Ned, I see you shaking your head there. Was Kamala ghosted?
Well, she was, and how embarrassing that she actually admitted it in an interview. I mean, I have to tell you, Kaylee, this feels like a revenge tour / self-immolation tour, more masquerading as a book tour. And it just feels like also Night of the Living Dead. Like, dear God, are we still having a book tour for this book and having Kamala out there who doesn't realize she's politically dead? Like, what does she think her future is in the party after she completely rips Joe Biden, appears confused that he won't pick up her phone calls, and then just has proceeded to torch almost every other person in the Democratic Party and still thinks that she has a future? I think it'd be pretty interesting to ask everybody in the Democratic Party now, do you think it'd be a good idea if Kamala Harris ran in 2028? And I'm pretty sure if they were being honest, almost to a person, they would all say no.
Well, one person may say yes. That this person was asked about Kamala Harris. Mark Kelly, let's bring him in.
Do you think that Kamala Harris would be a strong candidate in 2028?
Candidate? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, she was the nominee last time. I think
you would encourage her to run.
I think she would be incredibly strong. I think you're going to have, a dozen, if not more, folks running probably on either side.
I mean, Kaylee, are the auditions for vice president already happening? What is going on with that?
Yeah, he might be upset that he got passed over this last time. It's interesting that he says just a candidate, though. He doesn't seem very confident in her chances in a primary field. And I can't really blame him. I can't really blame Joe Biden, for that matter, for not taking Kamala Harris's calls. I mean, it's difficult enough for us to try and figure out what Kamala says on a daily basis, let alone if you're Joe Biden, trying to discern her various word salads. But I think part of this also is that Democrats don't really want to take part in the pity party that Kamala Harris is currently throwing herself. She's on this book tour right now trying to insist that everyone else is to blame for her loss except for herself. And the fact is she hasn't learned any of the lessons from 2024. She hasn't learned any of the lessons from her own mistakes that she made. And right now, the only action that she's taken is becoming a person so unlikable that everything that she says has just confirmed why voters rejected her in November and why they're glad that she lost.
Ned, today is Columbus Day. And I just want to walk back down memory lane and bring up Kamala Harris back when she was vice president. Here's what she had to say in this day in history a few years ago. And I want you to compare where we'd be right now if Kamala Harris were president of the United States. Instead of hostages being freed, we'd be getting a little bit of this.
Right. It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. We must not shy away from this shameful past.
Pretty amazing where we're at today. Thank God Donald Trump decided he was running again and that he won. That he prevented her from being president. What a disaster we would be as a country and quite frankly across the world, as you mentioned, the peace deal that was done today. But the thing that Donald Trump has done and that should make us so proud is that he wants to celebrate the greatness of who we are as a country. And he's not ashamed of it. And it's awesome for this country to be able to celebrate who we are instead of this constant, nonstop running us down. We should be ashamed of who we are and not be proud of who we are as a country and what we've accomplished. Donald Trump has brought back pride in this country, and I couldn't be happier.
Now, Kayleigh, it really is striking. I mean, I really, truly believe if Kamala Harris had been president, and I was just looking back at a Politico article about how she wanted a cabinet of progressives for foreign policy, hostages would not have been released today. We would be being fed a whole lot of this politically correct BS about Indigenous People Day with no deliverables on the world stage.
Absolutely. And by the way, keep in mind that if Kamala Harris had her way, Donald Trump would be serving 700 years in prison right now. Yeah. Instead, he's single-handedly erasing every single disastrous mark that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris left on this country. And that's what this is all about. Kamala Harris is upset about that, and she's trying to save herself from further embarrassment as Trump continues to dominate on the world stage and at home for all of Americans.
You know, Ned, I do want to play this little flashback. Kamala Harris, her foreign policy finesse. Let's watch.
It is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy.
I mean, boy, we'd be down the river without a paddle.
No joke. And honestly, Donald Trump's resume shows the exact opposite. I mean, he has been able to bring peace around the globe just in the first, 9-10 months of this second administration. Because of who he is and the strength that he has shown on the international stage. And quite frankly, he's having to clean up a lot of the messes from the Biden administration, from Kamala Harris, because of the absolute weakness they showed on the international stage. It is striking, Kayleigh, the difference that real strong leadership brings when you get it back to the White House, how Donald Trump has brought peace to the world when they brought destabilization.
Peace through strength. He has redefined foreign policy,
right.
And I do believe that we'll be studying this move of diplomacy in history books for years to come.
Yep.
Ned and Kayleigh, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.